All right, welcome along to another episode of the DePIN Coffee Hour, the fastest growing show in DePIN. And a huge thank you to all of you who are tuning in every week to listen to the conversations that we have here, because the show has just been growing at a crazy rate. If this is your first episode and you enjoyed this conversation, by all means, please subscribe to our channel on YouTube so that you get alerted when new episodes drop, which is every Tuesday. Some additional good news is that we're in the process of recording the show and dropping it into your favorite podcast platform. So very soon, these episodes will be available through Apple Podcasts, Google, etc., Spotify, wherever you like to consume your content, probably while you're driving or on the train or something like that. If this is your first toe dip into the deep waters of DePIN, and you want to get more involved, maybe make a little passive income, you can start your journey very easily with zero technical knowledge by popping over to havelo.com, sign up for an account, download our node. It can all be done in a few clicks in less than 5 minutes. And it doesn't matter if your PC is Linux, Windows, or Mac, you can set it up very quickly and easily with no technical knowledge and start earning some passive income and just start participating in the decentralized movement for physical networks. Another benefit of participating in the Havelo ecosystem while we're still in beta is that you will be earning rewards, which will contribute towards our next airdrop at the end of August, where we're giving away 50 million tokens to our most contributing members, essentially everybody who is running a node and everybody who is contributing in our community will be able to avail of that airdrop. So yeah, just the last thing is we have some very big news coming out this Friday. So if you're not already in our Discord community or following us on X, please go on over and join the community, or if you're more of an X type of a person, smash the follow button on X. All right, all of that housekeeping done. Let's get into the meat and potatoes of today's episode. It's my pleasure to introduce to you Lyubov from Wi-Fi Map app and Jacob from Power Ledger. Hey guys, very big welcome to the show.
Hi, how's it going?
Hey, thank you for the invite.
Good, thank you. Whereabouts are you guys in the world at the moment?
I'm in Turkey right now.
Turkey, nice.
I'm dialing in out of Switzerland.
Oh, nice. Okay, also better weather than mine. As an Irish person, we just judge everything, the entire world, based on the quality of the weather that you have there. It's like the grass is greener on the other side of the fence type of a thing. Anyways, do you guys want to just give the viewers a little bit of your backstory? What how did you get into Web3 and DePIN, I suppose, more specifically, and what are you working on right now? Ladies first, I guess.
Okay, lucky I am. My name is Lyubov. I'm the CMO of Wi-Fi Map. I've been with the project for 3 years now, and I must say that's an incredible journey, like growing the project from being like the leading Web2 project to taking it on chain and launching Wi-Fi token. I cover two sides of the project, Web2 marketing and Web3 as well, because Wi-Fi Map lives in this intersection. And for me, it's been amazing to see how the project grows, and I'm doing my best to keep pushing it forward. As for the background, before Wi-Fi Map, I worked in B2B, B2C, and SaaS companies, mainly Web2.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'm definitely interested to hear where you feel the line is, like how you differentiate between Web2 and Web3 in terms of how you approach the market and the go-to-market strategy and all that kind of fun stuff, for us marketers at least. But we'll come back around to that. Jacob, do you want to just give us your backstory and tell us a little bit about what you're up to in Power Ledger?
Yeah, absolutely. My name's Jacob. I run the blockchain operations at Power Ledger. I've been with the company for 2 years now. Prior to that, I was with the layer 1 Tezos, running ecosystem there, especially gaming and arts is the areas where I was focusing most on. And Previous to that, I have a TradFi background. So I'm a traditional banking space guy that wasn't happy with how the space was operating. And I always kind of was the sore person out. I just didn't fit in. And there was a lot of things that I didn't like about the system. So you could say I'm one of those that came because of ideology into the Web3 space. Not sure that's why I stayed. I've definitely fallen in love with the space. I've seen the space grow over kind of these past like 5-6 years that I've been really active working in it. And now in kind of this latest stage, working with Power Ledger, the DePIN space is just really the space that I feel very, very closely connected with, just because it really bridges that real world integration with what we stand for as an ecosystem. Decentralization, democratizing different avenues, new business models, really kind of breaking down some of the silos that many of these industries that we're in DePIN are working on have been facing in the traditional world. And yeah, I'm very happy to be here today and talk about like what the DePIN space is currently going through and kind of how excited I am about its future.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what, like, it's a big thing close to my own heart as well. And part of the reason I love doing this show is just getting new insights into seeing, like, you know, where some of the people who are working at the top parts of the DePIN space see things going. Like, I bought Bitcoin in 2013 and kind of started to work in the space in 2017, and have been through a number of token launches and have gone through that journey of how it's all changed from, you know, the ICO and reading Satoshi's white paper to kind of more recently. And, you know, it's definitely very easy to get jaded by the sort of the Ponzi-nomics of one side of, let's say, of the digital asset space. I think it's kind of why DePIN really struck a chord with me, and why, having worked in a number of different sectors, that I just find it fascinating. I really believe in the future of the space. I think if you're into decentralization, whether you've been orange pilled or not, but if you believe in decentralization, I think you can kind of see how important the work that these projects are doing, that you guys are both doing, and many other projects in the space. So yes, that's why I just love chatting to you guys. Jacob, maybe we could double click on that a little bit more about the the differences between like Tezos or other blockchain projects and what you're working on now. I know obviously Power Ledger is a completely different thing. It seems like, from the outside at least, Power Ledger is a very different thing than Tezos. But maybe that's a better place to start. Maybe tell us a little bit about Power Ledger and what you guys are trying to do, and why blockchain is important.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Power Ledger is a really interesting case, because we were doing DePIN before the term DePIN existed. I mean, thanks to the Messari guys for coining the term. It actually helped us a lot, because I think it finally gave us some language to talk about what we're doing. Our way of doing DePIN is, we realized that in the electricity space, so energy is so Power Ledger is an energy DePIN. So we focus on electricity, especially kind of usage of excess renewable energy. So we allow users to trade excess renewable energy in a peer-to-peer manner. Because a lot of times people have, especially during the day or during summer, they have excess energy electricity that they produce using their solar panels, and the feed-in tariffs that they get from the traditional grid operators or energy companies are very, very minimal. And so for a lot of people, it doesn't really make sense to keep producing that electricity. And for us, we think that shouldn't be the case. There's enough demand for clean, renewable energy. And we just want to kind of bring the supply to where the demand is, and make sure to kind of break that silo that some of these energy companies have. And we have been doing that like a long time before, as I said, DePIN was coined as a term, because energy or electricity production in itself is already largely decentralized. Of course, a majority of the grid is still centralized. You have one central transmission grid. You have a few, I would almost call it an oligopoly market, where you have a few energy companies. But a lot of people now have these decentralized energy resources. So they have their own batteries, they have their own electric vehicles, they have their solar panels, you have solar farms, you have wind farms, you have more kind of the energy production and supply has really changed over the past 15 years. And we've always said there's an abundance of these decentralized energy sites, and we just need a layer to connect them. And obviously with electricity, just given that it's a very fast asset, it's very quick, and it's very important to account for every single kilowatt hour. You need a rail that manages that speed, and blockchain is perfectly suitable for that. So having a blockchain rail to kind of as an underlying audit trail and as an underlying database for what's going on has, in our opinion, been very credible from the beginning on. So we were founded in 2016 out of Australia and had our ICO in 2017. So we were the first and largest ICO in Australian history. And we've been doing that since then. We've operated on a few different chains. We've even run our own chain in between, because obviously electricity has a very, very high throughput demand. So TPS is incredibly important. And when we started out on Ethereum, we just realized it's getting way too expensive to do that. And so we kind of transitioned over, and now we landed on Solana mainnet, which is a really great place for us to be. Just building alongside some of the other great DePIN ecosystems. But again, we believe that this is kind of a cross-chain change that we need to do. Electricity is important for everyone. So we're not going to just focus on Solana. We're going to keep building on Ethereum as well. We're going to look in alternative directions as well. Base is like one of these layers that everybody keeps mentioning, and where a lot of kind of refi projects are starting to pop up. So we're really trying to kind of connect the space and make sure we position ourselves as kind of a player in this electricity DePIN space.
Okay, so for those of us who aren't as familiar with the energy space, maybe we could just talk about it in real terms for a minute. It's a topic that's quite close to my heart, because I'm trying to get solar panels put on the roof. I feel like every house in the world should have solar panels. They've told me here in Ireland, which is a very cloudy country, not renowned for its sunshine, let's say, that I can basically power the entire house for most of the year, including charging an electric car. And it's going to be like, it's going to almost completely remove my bill at the almost most basic level. There's bigger packages that we could get if we got an extra car or something like that. So I'm not sure exactly where you fit into this whole ecosystem of things, but let's say for argument's sake that I'm making way more electricity than I need in Ireland. And I guess this is probably part of the complexity, because every country is probably somewhat similar and somewhat different in varying degrees. But here, basically, I have to sell my electricity back to the grid. Like, I have to have it so that it just automatically goes back. Now, I was like, well, I don't want to necessarily have it go back. I want to have it go to batteries, and I want to, because the rates are insane. They don't give you anything like what you pay for it. So if you get a smart meter, you can arbitrage it a little bit, where you're getting, like, for 4 hours at night, you can get a really low rate. That's lower than what you would pay them back during the daytime if you had. So you can actually end up slightly, but it's not designed for me to make a profit, really. It's designed for me to, it's designed for the power companies to make a profit, which makes sense. So I'm just wondering, like, do you see a situation, or does what Power Ledger, like, I'm kind of curious about how Power Ledger would track that in that situation, or is it at a bigger level? You're not interested in consumers, and you're more interested in enterprise level, or like a sort of a more B2B model where you're, solar farms and stuff like that. You're tracking that kind of level.
So when looking at this space, there's obviously a few different companies that are trying to tackle a similar problem that we are doing, because as you've pointed out, there's really regulatory differences between a lot of the countries. So but we've very early on already said we don't want to go with our own hardware. So that's one of the decisions we've made. I mean, when you look at the DePIN space, there's always kind of two sides to it. There's people that like their own hardware, they like to run their own nodes, and others that say, well, the hardware that we currently have is enough. We just want to integrate hardware agnostic. That's what we've done. And then the other thing that we've realized is we see power companies or utility companies almost like these immovable mountains. And you can either build around these mountains or you can build on top of these mountains. And that's what we decided. So what we have is what we call kind of a B2B2C business model. So we integrate directly with the utilities and offer our white label platform to them for them to offer to their customers that have their own solar panels. So the customers of these utilities can then use our white label software and our smart contracts to automate their energy consumption and energy selling and energy trading directly. Because one of the things that people that have solar panels and generate their own electricity, they don't want to be bothered with trading the energy whenever they make some profit with it. It's too much of a hassle for them. They just want to be reimbursed for the electricity that they produce, and they want to have enough for themselves. That's all they care about. And they want to get more than just like a minor feed-in tariff. Or sometimes in Switzerland, where I'm based, you actually have to pay the utility company to take your electricity, which I think we can all agree that doesn't make any sense. You spend money on the infrastructure, you spend it on producing electricity, and then you're giving it for free to the utility. I mean, that doesn't sound fair, right? No. So what we create is a way that where the users of the utilities get a platform to trade between each other, also from the retail user to an industrial user, for example, that has very high demand during the day when retail users don't have a high demand. And the electricity companies and the utilities actually profit off of that because that's a massive customer retention angle for them. Mm-hmm. Because investing in customer retention becomes more and more important as more liberalization enters the electricity market. Again, It depends on the country. Switzerland, for example, it's a monopolized market. I have to buy electricity from the state. I can't choose, so customer retention is not as important. More liberalized markets like Austria, Germany, France are a much bigger story. And that's the markets we're operating in. And then also, we always think of the Western countries, Northern Hemisphere, where we have very, very well-established grids. So we have generally pretty good electricity infrastructure. But if we look at emerging markets, India, Southeast Asia, there's a lot of places that don't actually have access to electricity. So they need some form of decentralized electricity, and they need some form of sharing of electricity among the community, because there's no centralized grid that feeds electricity to these areas that need it. So these are also markets where we operate. That's why we have projects in Thailand, in India, in Japan. We really try to build kind of wherever there's need for it. And currently that it's large enough of a market. And we believe that over time, there's going to be more and more regulation with this happening. Because I would say the biggest problem right now is not actually renewable energy production. Like we have enough, and I don't mean enough, but we have currently enough production of solar energy in the retail spectrum. We have enough prosumers, so households that produce their own. The problem is we don't currently have the infrastructure that allows this to feed back into the grid. And that's when we see situations like the blackout event that happened in Spain a few weeks back. That was actually the first day after Spain became fully reliant on just renewable energy. It had a blackout event because renewable energy has a new challenge for the grid that the traditional grid is not catered to. And our solution allows to kind of do some demand response planning for that and allows these companies to make sure that it is traded in a local market rather than feedback throughout the entire transmission grid. And I know this was a very big excursion into kind of the electricity market, but it kind of goes to show how decentralized needs and how the market itself is already decentralized. So we're not trying to bring a Web3 ideology to a market. We're actually taking the market dynamics as they are today and bring it to technology that is perfectly suited for that market that didn't know another technology in the past that could basically handle the same decentralized payload.
Yeah, no, it's fascinating. It's fascinating. I imagine it's rife with challenges as well in terms of like, just even, I mean, the blockchain piece is easy, it's immutable, but what happens between the generation of electricity and that information getting to the blockchain, I'd imagine. I've just been working in the space so long, I know what it's like to have people who are always trying to game a system, trying to basically, like bad actors essentially.
Correct.
So yeah, my brain always goes there. How could somebody abuse the way this is set up? No, it's fascinating. I think, like you say, energy and being a decentralization person, like somebody who's maxi, maybe you might say, that's part of the reason. It's the idea of having energy independence, and if you can, I would much prefer to take the sun's energy and not pay the electricity bill, and perhaps with something like this, contribute to another stream of, even if it's a small one, of passive income. Because I kind of feel like eventually we have to get to a place where we have all these small streams of passive income that help us, not need to work after AI takes all of our jobs.
I think you're nailing it. I'm really curious also afterwards to hear Lyubov's point of view on this. I think it's not necessarily just passive streams of income. I think people don't realize that a lot of the things that they possess or own are assets. They're not just liabilities. Like electricity right now is just a cost factor for most people. But as kind of people get really taken into this market and become prosumers themselves, so go from kind of consuming to also sharing electricity and producing their own electricity and sharing it with neighbors, either through charging stations or through batteries. This sharing economy really kind of opens up this idea that not everything that we have at home is necessarily a liability or something that devalues over time. It's the same for when we look at kind of decentralized compute or anything like that. Your old MacBook could act as a processing unit, for example, for someone, or a node, or your old mobile phones can act as a node. Like, we start to realize that there's a lot more assets around the individuals. If we make a passive income from that, great. But even if it's just from a kind of a life cycle management and kind of an understanding of the sharing economy thought, that's where my ideology comes back into it. This is a really great way of kind of evolving and taking the consumer and the retail user out of his constant kind of having to pay for things, but also actually getting a benefit from offering a service to the public.
Yeah, no, 100%. Which actually is probably a lovely segue into into what you guys are doing at Wi-Fi Map, Lyubov.
Yeah, that's
Do you want to
actually
tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah. A little bit better about Wi-Fi Map, right? So we are basically the global community-powered connectivity app that helps people to stay connected and recently help them to navigate real-world infrastructure. That is very funny because we do have a lot of in common between our projects. I used to say that we've been DePIN long ago. The DePIN term even existed, and we've been placed into this category after the Emissary Reports has been launched. And we started back in 2014, so we are already almost 11 years on the market. And the idea of the project was very simple. Like, you're traveling, you don't have the internet, and the roaming is very expensive. You have no place to go and to find it. What if there was an app that will help people to stay connected, that will help them to share the information between each other about the Wi-Fi hotspots details and its location? And that's what we built, actually, the map of free Wi-Fi hotspots open to everybody and purely shared by the community. We are completely crowdsourced, meaning that in terms of the data, we rely purely on our crowdsourcing engine. But over the years, it actually grew from just the simple Wi-Fi finder into something bigger. Now our users can map public restrooms, tap water locations, ATMs, encrypt ATMs, and the infrastructure designed like this, so you can add as many layers as we want to, and we can solve the problems of the users, like what they need at that time. Still, all these details are powered by the community. Web3 gave us the way to reward the community and to thank them for their participation. We introduced the Wi-Fi token, which is built on Polygon, and the TGE was 2 years ago in April. From now on, each time a user adds the Wi-Fi hotspot, verifies the existing one, runs a speed test, or map a new location, like add photo or text review, he is rewarded with Wi-Fi tokens mapped directly into his in-app wallet. And these tokens have the real usage from the day one. You can spend the earned tokens on eSIM data plans, which is available in 150 plus countries, so pretty much covering the whole world. Like, no open Wi-Fi hotspot nearby, don't worry. The work that you have already did has won you a free internet, so go ahead and use it. And that closes the loop, like contribute, earn, and redeem.
Cool.
We went fully on chain pretty much 2 months ago. We received the Polygon grant, like to speed up the expansion, and we went full on chain. And since that time, we've been top 1 on Polygon according to unique active wallets and number of transactions. And we are regularly ranked among top 15, top 20, top 15 projects across all chains, according to the Depredator statistics. Just 2 days ago, we hit a new milestone for us. That is 1 million of unique active wallets.
Amazing.
Yeah,
congratulations. That's incredible.
That's incredible. Thank you. I agree, because like I'm living the project.
You're doing all the work to make it happen.
Yeah. And we might be one of the biggest DePIN projects and networks on chain, but the mission still stays the same as day one. We help to build free internet access, like truly free and global.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I think eSIMs are a bit of a revelation. As somebody, I used to travel, like I was a digital nomad for 7 years, and you know, the amount of money that I spent on actual SIMs, and then you're like, my phone choice was quite limited because I had to have a phone that would have at least 2 SIM slots or have 2 phones, which was always something I was just never willing to do.
We have more than 2 million reviews on App Store and Google Play. Our community, like the recent number was 200 millions of users worldwide, and these reviews, people share the information on how Wi-Fi Map actually saved them on the business trip, when they need to send the homework, when they need to call their loved ones, and on like travel trips as well.
Incredible. How do you? Yeah, because I mean, there's definitely I can definitely see how you have 2 very different sides to the business, with like in terms of marketing, where you're just trying to attract. And actually, this is something Havelo is one of the challenges for Havelo as well. Is, you know, on one side you've got the on-chain, you know, you've got the Web3 audience who are interested in tokens and incentives and, you know, decentralization, and then on the other side you've got the regular users who just want Wi-Fi, for example, in this case.
Yeah, I do believe.
Well, my question was, do you treat them as 2 completely different sets of people and do essentially completely different marketing, or do you just bundle it all together and say, this is a one size fits all, this marketing is going to work for everybody?
It is completely different marketing, because you have the different marketing mix to attract Web2 audience and Web3 audience, and pretty much different tools and channels you are speaking with your audience to. But Wi-Fi Map actually grew entirely on organic traffic. The app really solves the problem of finding the free Wi-Fi hotspot, and that is why it became very viral all over the years. Like, we've noticed that content creators and influencers have been filming the videos about Wi-Fi map and TikToks, and they actually gained like 1, 2, 5, 20 millions of views, and that's how we saw the spikes in certain areas, and we understood that X5 traffic from Morocco definitely caused by the video, and they have been doing it genuinely, like without any payment, because the app was very useful and they wanted to share like this tip with their audience.
Cool.
And this kind of reality actually helped us to grow the traffic pretty much across the world, but we scaled it with the Web3 component, because we now have the tool to motivate users grow our network.
Right.
I should say that we have 16 millions of active Wi-Fi hotspots, and people have been mapping the Wi-Fi hotspots even before the token, out of the genuine idea to help, to be the part of the community, and because they found it like really useful.
All right, cool. Just looking here at our audience, somebody's asking, are you from Bulgaria?
No, I'm not.
Okay. Very highly relevant question. Thanks, Airdrop Hunter.
Thank you for asking.
Yeah. It's probably because of the "of" at the end of your name. I lived in Bulgaria actually for
Oh,
a few
really?
years. Yeah, for 4 years. We had both of our children there, and good friends of ours, Bulgarians. This is a completely unrelated story to anything useful, but I thought it was funny. They were saying that the way that the naming structure is there was that, like, when we were having our little girl, they were like, oh, her middle name is going to have to be like Neilova because like my name is Neil and the father's name with the A at the end is apparently the way that they do it or something.
Yeah.
So my wife was not thrilled by that development. But yeah, so her middle name, suffice to say, is not Neilova. Anyways, moving onwards. I think it's fascinating. Maybe it's a good time to talk about tokens and incentives and how that all works. So with you guys, you've got the Wi-Fi token. People can contribute, like users of the application can contribute Wi-Fi networks, passwords, etc., and then earn the tokens. Earn tokens essentially for that contribution. So in other words, the incentive is there to help you guys improve the quality of what you deliver, and also, I suppose expand the data lake that you have on available places that you can get free Wi-Fi. Are there other incentives baked into the token, or how else does the token work?
Well, pretty much I've explained the utility. We had the utility from day one. That is the token. You earn tokens you can spend, you can redeem on eSIM data plans, which are completely useful. You can also send tokens across the ecosystem to show like the gratitude for your fellow contributor who added the Wi-Fi hotspot. And you earn tokens by completing by scaling our network. That is adding Wi-Fi hotspots, running the speed test. We need speed test to prove that the Wi-Fi hotspot is live. It's in this location. It exists. That's why we have the speed test functionality. Then people have the ability to add photo reviews, which would be very helpful in the future, like for AI training, etc. Like we can use the data, we collect the real world data and have the platform to do so. That's pretty much it, and they are rewarded instantly on chain after the proof factor, which is done by our AI algorithms that ensure that the data we display is relevant, that no harmful information is loaded, like all the links are verifiable, etc., etc. So, and they are pretty much rewarded instantly.
Okay.
That's how it.
Cool. So, I suppose, is there anything is there anything that you plan to do with the token in the future, or are you anything you want to tell us about something that's coming up or anything like that with the token?
Like we will definitely our goal is to develop the product, the app itself, to add the new layers, to use the data, not the personal data, but the real world data we collect to train AI algorithms, to find new ways for users to be rewarded, to create a staking initiative. We are working Web2 business, meaning that we have traditional revenue streams, which is premium subscription, eSIM services, as well as the ads inside the app. And the portion of the revenue that we gain, we allocate to regular buybacks, which are done on the basis like every month, pretty much. And more users and more contributors are in the loop, like contribute, earn, connect. The bigger is the revenue and the bigger buybacks are. You can check out our due dashboard. We've been doing the buybacks actually are stored for DAO on the wallet that is trackable for everybody, and they're pretty much locked for the future DAO decisions.
All right, cool. Yeah, no, it's like as I said earlier on, incentives, the whole incentive, the way that projects incentivize behavior and things like that is a source of fascination for me. So the same kind of questioning is coming your way, Jacob, in terms of because you guys have, if I'm correct, it's the power token, right? POWR?
Correct. Yeah.
Do you want to speak about how that works? And
yeah, absolutely. I think in order to kind of understand the power token logic, I briefly hinted at that we had a bit of a kind of a circulation of what layers or what protocols we were building on. And once we kind of realized that Ethereum wasn't the right protocol for us, just given the amount of transactions that we were dealing with, we, for some internal reasons, we were always big fans of L1 scaling rather than having L2 scaling. So instead of kind of moving to an L1, which we thought was ready at the time, we actually built our own, the Power Ledger blockchain, which was built on the code base of Solana. So it's basically a fork of Solana early on, and we were running that for 2 years. And obviously the token there was just was used to incentivize validators for traditional staking, very similar to what any L1 would be doing. Maybe that's the overlap to your very, very initial question with what is similar to Tezos and what isn't. I think that part was very similar, and dealing with all the different validators. But we realized also at that point that I would say 90% of our company are electrical engineers. We are very, very close to the electricity market, and that's where our real know-how comes in. And I think that's why our products also stand out in the traditional market, because we built products for the market, not just what we think the market needs. And so we realized we wanted to move away from actually running our own protocol, because there's a lot of other questions you have to solve. You have to deal with what happens if there's protocol upgrades on Solana that we have to run on our own chain as well. What if nodes go down? What if there's validator issues? All of these types of questions. And we realized we're getting away from building the products that we're actually really good at. And so that's why we made that transition, because it was relatively simple. All our code base was already based on Solana code. So expanding to mainnet was actually kind of a logical next step. And since doing that, we've been really trying to kind of fit the token into kind of a new utility use case. In its current form, it's a green payment token that is integrated in some third-party platforms as well. So, for example, you can offset your emissions when you book flights or something like that, and then we pay a part of that is being refunded or bought back and burned on our site. But we're coming to kind of the second part of your question, really working on a few new use cases that are really interesting, that go in the direction of kind of electricity perpetuals, We're looking at also like staking pools and green staking pools, where the reward of staking might not be monetary, but in terms of kind of an offset that you can claim against your contribution to the pool. We're also looking into green stable coins. So we are really kind of reinventing the Web3 and the utility of the token as we're currently doing. There's a bunch of big announcements coming. I cannot speak too much on it right now, but be sure to be on the lookout and follow our social media to for in the next quarter or two, towards the end of the year. There's going to be some big announcement in that regard. Given that you've mentioned, and I just want to throw that out, that is not even necessarily related to our project, but given that you mentioned you're really interested in the tokenomics of things, I think DePIN projects in general have a bit of an issue when it comes to tokenomics, and I think that's a good and a bad thing. It's like a two-sided sword. A lot of us have kind of traditional Web2 revenue. Like us, we run a software as a service business. I think, like you mentioned, Lyubov, you have kind of the traditional SIM card business or freemium model and subscription tiers. And there's also a way of, you can use tokens to incentivize supply, but it's very clear that having a lot of supply doesn't really show product market fit in the DePIN space. So you need to make sure that you have demand revenue, and demand revenue is not as easy to generate as many people believe. And as soon as you generate it, the question always becomes, how does that trickle down to the people that actually hold the token? Because if I think of it, if I provide compute, for example, for a decentralized compute network, and I get rewarded in a token, then eventually I'll probably sell that token, or I'll hold it with the expectation that this token will increase in value, right?
Yeah.
But if I use that same token to pay for the service, then I don't want this token to go up exponentially, because otherwise my service will just get more and more expensive over time. So you have a disincentivization of the demand side and the supply side, and you run into tokenomics issues. And there's a really, really good article that I recommend everyone reading by 1KX and Messari, where they did a large-scale research on the largest DePIN networks and showed that a lot of these DePINs run into these tokenomic issues down the line, especially with some of these DePINs having kind of a final maturity. I'm thinking of someone like GeoDNet. They say if they have 80,000 nodes, they basically map out the whole world. So then the question is, okay, once the supply side is filled, where does the incentivization come in? Do you still need to incentivize enough, or do you have enough revenue that you can just basically be like, well, you've had your money, you were incentivized running these nodes, and now we just kind of shut down and run a traditional kind of Web2 business where we just generate revenue. And then the question is also, do the projects really want this exposure to their own token? And for us, we answered that question with a very astounding yes. Like, we believe in what we're building with Power. We believe we have the potential to really build new products, new utilities around the token that are more on a B2C side, that are more encompassing for the retail users. But that does take time, and you need to be aware of some of these challenges. And that's why I think DePIN is in a really interesting state right now. If we spoke a year ago, everybody would have been like, yeah, DePIN is the sector. We want to invest in DePIN. We want to invest in RWA. And right now, everybody is kind of staying away because they're afraid of some of these tokenomics issues that have been true across the board in this space. And I think this is a really good chance for us to show that we're not just the next NFTs. Like, we're part of this Web3 ecosystem that are here to stay, because we're building real solutions that solve people's needs, regardless of the token. The token just amplifies what we're doing, but we solve needs regardless of the token, and that basically gives us longevity as projects. And coming back again to that initial question where you said, like, what is the difference between Tezos, or what are some of those learnings? Kind of working on these early NFT projects back in the day, like where there was the huge NFT craze, we never had that fundamental productivity that came out of these projects. They were cool, they were hype, they were kind of the pump.fun type projects. People bought into it because they liked what they were buying into. It was more of a they wanted to be part of a group, they wanted to be part of a community. Whereas with what we do, it's a very traditional business case. I think what Wi-Fi Map is doing is also a very traditional business case. It's a need in the market for everyday users, and we're solving it. There just happens to be a token there as well.
Yeah, I think it does seem to be one of the things, and it's something we kind of find a little frustrating because, you know, the whole purpose of Havelo is that, like, we're building on the supply side of nodes. And then you see lots of these DePIN networks, and they're primarily focused on, you know, the user side, the node side. So we need the nodes before we can sell the demand. Guess what? The demand is going to be a lot harder to sell than the supply is going to be. And if you choose to integrate with somebody like Havelo, then you're going to get instant supply switched on like that. We can totally take care of that, and it's going to be so easy relative to you know, developing user-friendly software and then, you know, onboarding whatever 100,000 nodes and not having any money for them to earn. This is a huge problem in the space at the moment. The earnings just aren't there because the it seems like, at least, because the demand side is just, you know, it's being pushed out. Maybe it's seen to be a harder problem to solve because it's not a technical problem. It's sort of like a business development problem. It's a commercial problem. I mean, there is, don't get me wrong, there is a technical element to it as well in a lot of cases, I think, because, you know, like, especially where there's any regulations and that kind of side of things, or where you're looking at enterprise and some of the unique set of requirements that they have. Because I think it's going to be enterprise. It seems like it's going to be enterprise that's going to drive the demand at a level where where you're going to need a big supply to just sort of try and balance the equation. So yeah, it is a really tough one though, like the supply and demand kind of chicken and egg that most kids have to.
Absolutely. And sometimes, like, I have really good talks with projects that I know some of the founders of, and I remember one of my friends telling me a few months back where he's like, you know what was the biggest change for us when we realized we weren't actually a Web3 business, we're in the hardware business right now, because at the moment we're just trying to sell nodes, and that's how we generate revenue, and that's how we generate kind of the supply side. And it was really interesting because he had to rethink. He was like, I think the node selling or the hardware selling part is like, that's going to go anyway. We just need to figure out the tech. And now they have this tech, but they still have to figure out how to actually get it out there. And so like, there's these unique challenges that I think other areas in Web3 don't have. Like the DeFi project doesn't have those issues because you're 100%. Fundamentally catering to a different need of the users. And you have this kind of two-sided marketplace issue that a lot of these DePIN projects have, right? Because they have to aggregate demand and supply, because oftentimes they are operating in a market that doesn't exist to this extent yet.
Yeah.
Like, of course, we operate in a market, the utilities, electricity market, it's an established market. We have a new solution, but it's an established market. I think the same is true for SIM. I mean, there's several different SIM projects, right, that have eSIMs and whatnot. And they're operating in a market that traditional telecom is in. They're insufficient, clearly, like otherwise we wouldn't need these new solutions, but that exists. But then there's these entirely new markets where it's like, oh, noise pollution. I didn't even know noise pollution was a market, but now you can suddenly buy data for noise pollution. And like these, and then you have also this educational issue, because you're not in a market that people understand. You're in a market where you're like, hey guys, this is actually a market. You can make some money with this, and you have everything at home to provide compute. It doesn't cost you anything. And the biggest risk that you have is that you earn tokens that eventually never go up. Well, boohoo. It's like, you know, it's all upside, no downside for many people.
Yeah.
And that's, I think it's really interesting, and that's what DePIN is so fascinating, and why each individual project has its own unique set of difficulties, or unique set of challenges, not difficulties, challenges that it needs to solve in order to really kind of figure out the demand and the supply side.
Yeah, well, this is the thing with emerging tech, right? Sort of blazing a trail. I think there's a lot of DePIN has a somewhat established incumbent player that they're trying to, you know, disrupt, or maybe create just a different, more decentralized, more democratized world, you know, by kind of disrupting that. Bob from our community asked if I don't have solar or EV, are there options to get involved in the project?
Right now, yes, just by engaging with us. And we have a Telegram channel where we're always open for new ideas for people that want to help build with us. We're looking for people with ideas. We also have a kind of a small venture arm. So we look at new ideas and invest some money as well. And also, again, keep your eyes open. Next quarter, and towards the end of the year, we'll announce a few new products that are going to be easy to get involved for retail users without any EV or solar panels themselves.
Sounds cool. All right. Right. Well, just ahead of us wrapping up, I'm kind of curious to hear what you guys think about what the future looks like, or if it's even something that you think about. This is something I think about a lot, mostly as I find myself more and more diving down the AI rabbit hole. And I also listen to quite a lot of podcasts, which seems to be lately they're all talking about AI and World War III and nuclear war. And yeah, and if you're into sci-fi at all, you've probably seen at least 5 movies where humanity's enslaved by the robots and the AI. So I'm just curious about what you guys think about the future and how, like, you know, are you optimistic? Are you pessimistic? Do you think it's going to be a completely different world in 5 years? Do you think, you know, what does it look like for you when you think about it? And just an open conversation. Anybody can answer if you feel like it.
Well, actually, I think that DePIN is still early. This kind of a narrative DePIN is still early. But I believe that it's going to be one of the most important narrative in crypto, because that is the only category that connects the real world with crypto, and like the people in the real world with crypto, and people can actually see its impact. They can, they can understand it. And I believe that we will start seeing growth in the projects that are solving real world problems like connectivity, electricity, energy, even the infrastructure. That would be like the most of the growth. And I'm also seeing that we will see consolidation. Like a lot of projects, DePIN projects are launching, but the one to survive are the one that are needed, that have the demand, and that like they're solving the problems long term, and they would become the part of people's everyday life, both Web3 and Web2 users. I do believe in the concept of invisible blockchain. Like Web2 users don't even realize they are using blockchain or they're in Web3. And the UX of the app or the platform is designed that well, so they don't even need the onboarding. So they don't even realize that they're in blockchain and still use the product and have the chance to contribute.
Yep. Yeah, I agree completely. I think it's like driving a car, you know. You don't want, who cares like what kind of engine you have? Well, actually I do, but most people don't care about what kind of engine you have or whatever, you know, they just want to get from A to B. And I feel like, yeah, I agree with you completely on that. Any thoughts, Jacob?
Yeah, I think I fully agree. I think DePIN, I think more and more of the world will go into kind of this hybrid of kind of these traditional markets that were there and these new markets, and DePIN is really at this intersection where it brings these new technologies into these traditional markets. Most of my friends will probably call me a pessimist, which makes this statement probably even more strong. I'm very optimistic. I think we're at the beginning of an S-curve jump right now. I think we're already seeing it. 2 years ago, everybody was concerned about electricity. Right now, everybody's concerned about compute. Compute is leverage. We know that. Everybody's competing for AI power, whether it's China or the US. And for us, good thing for us is energy is the leverage in compute, because without electricity, there's no compute. And I think there will be massive changes. We already see it now. I mean, BlackRock's Bitcoin ETF is the strongest ETF they've ever built. I mean, let that sink in. It's the best performing ETF they've ever had, is a Bitcoin ETF. We see TradFi changing we see TradFi acknowledging and getting into the Web3 space. We see AI improving at a rate that is unprecedented. Like I was lucky enough to be born at a time where I enjoyed a time without smartphones or without phones entirely, without mobile phones, without having a computer at home, then going through the entire change of speed. And now just looking back the past 2 years of what ChatGPT 01 to 4.0 now, just in terms of improvement of quality of output, it makes me very optimistic for the next 5 years. I think entire industries will be changed, but not just negatively. I think for the positive. I think there's going to be great ways for everybody, retail users, for new revenue generation. There's going to be new avenues for revenue generation. There's going to be new opportunities across the board. And there's going to be a reshuffling of expertise because these technologies are so new. Everybody can build skills, regardless of whether you're young or old. There's nobody that is an expert. And I noticed that just being in this space now, 6-7 years, I feel like a dinosaur already. And I know people that are in it for 2 years and they are asking me, well, you know everything. You've been in here for so long.
Your whole life. Yeah.
I'm like, you guys 2 years ago have entered this space. You're still early. 90% of people still don't understand what we're building. Like opportunities are everywhere. I just want to be like a call for action. Embrace it. Don't see it as a threat. See it as an opportunity, and make sure you take out of it as much as possible.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I would completely agree with that as well. I think, with anything, especially change, you can always look at it as an opportunity or as a threat, and maybe that's a partially genetic thing, or it's learned behavior or whatever. But I tend to be a bit more optimistic about change, and I definitely think that over time, I just can't see that entire GDPs collapsing. This narrative that AI is going to take all of our jobs, and Lubov and I work in marketing, so we're definitely if there's anybody whose head's on the chopping block in terms of reduction of the amount of people needed, it's people in marketing, because already the LLMs can do such an incredible job. I mean, I'm using LLMs every day, and I think most people are at this stage. I mean, my kids who are just going to start school this year, they're never going to know a world without all this stuff. So I'm also hopeful that humanity doesn't get enslaved and it doesn't become a problem, because it'll be their problem to have to deal with. You don't want to think about that, but it's a really interesting thing. And I think if you consider that global economies aren't all going to collapse, I just don't believe it. GDP is not going to suddenly be minus. So with that in mind, whatever happens, I feel like humanity will adapt and change, and maybe we all go down to a 3-day work week, and we all have these little passive income streams that come from, our contributions to Wi-Fi maps, to our electricity that we give back to the grid, or to our spare compute power that we're not using because we're only working 3 days a week. So, Havelo runs the rest of those days, and who knows? But I feel like it's actually, we all should be optimistic.
Well, and I hope the one thing that, especially early on, I saw a lot of people use AI for some of the creative tasks. And I hope people get away from that and just use it to streamline some of the tasks that nobody really wants to do, answering emails, organizing things. Use it for that, but keep your creative power inside of yourself.
Yeah.
Draw, write, do all these things. Use AI to help you do it, but do it yourself. Don't forget to be creative, because otherwise the fun part of our job is going to be done by AI, and everything else is just going to be done by us. And that's not something I would enjoy as kind of a future vision. So I encourage everybody also to just kind of keep doing the fun things and outsource the things that you don't want to do.
Yeah, here. I'm on board with that. All right. We've actually gone over the hour, so we'll just do a quick wrap up. Lubov, if you want to go first, do you want to tell everybody where they can get involved with Wi-Fi Map, follow you, etc.? Give us all the link.
For the new updates and what's coming next, you can subscribe to our Twitter and Telegram. Join the Telegram group. Start with downloading the app from App Store and Google Play. You can basically find it by Wi-Fi map. We will be on the first spot. And you can start by adding your home Wi-Fi. You can go to the Starbucks, and if the Starbucks Wi-Fi is not mapped yet, feel free to add it to the network. Once you see that you are rewarded with the Wi-Fi token, like you are getting involved into our community. That's pretty much it. That's pretty much very simple on how to contribute to Wi-Fi map.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. And thank you for coming and being on the show this week. It was lovely to chat to you. Jacob?
Yeah. For us, the easiest to stay up to date with what we're doing at Power Ledger is just follow us on Twitter or join our Telegram group at @powerledger_io. And just also drop us a line in the chat or a message if you have any ideas, if you want to build something in the electricity or renewable space. We're always interested in new ideas. And again, follow us. There's going to be some big announcements in the next quarter.
All right, we will look forward to all of that. So just a huge thank you to our guests today and to everybody who's tuned in so far. I have to do my team have told me that we're giving away some HVLO, so I'm going to drop you guys off the stage, and we're going to do a random wheel spin to figure out which 3 of our amazing node runners are getting a HVLO giveaway today. So thanks again, guys. I'm going to try and do this. Let's see here. Bear with me 1 second while I figure out how to do this. All right. So here we go. So I've added all these names which I was provided for all of the node owners, and we're going to pick out 3 or we're going to let the wheel pick out 3, I guess. So Krishna, I hope you're taking these down. Give up the first winner. View from the list. I'm going to shuffle the list a few times just for shits and giggles, and we'll go again. Like a game show host. Ooh, Snickers 50. All right. Congratulations, Snickers 50. We'll do a few more shuffles. Fire the wheel off again. Who have we got this time? Ooh. I don't know how to pronounce that. I'm not even going to try and butcher the pronunciation on that one. Thanks so much to everybody for once again tuning in to our DePIN Coffee Hour for this week, episode 19. If you haven't already downloaded and tried Havelo, I would encourage you to do so. We're still in beta, so it's not going to make you a millionaire overnight, just setting your expectation, but you can contribute, supply resources, become a node runner, become part of our community, earn DePIN rewards, and also earn HVLO in our airdrop that's coming up at the end of August. And also, maybe even more importantly, become part of one of the best communities in the Web3 space. So that's it for this week. A huge thank you to all of you who tuned in and for another episode of our show. And until next week, have a good week.